Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me again, Monica, on this newest episode of Confessions of Being a Woman. Again, the platform is designed for women of all races, cultures, ages, socioeconomic backgrounds, countries, languages, um, to be able to share insight on not only just our personal truths, but things that we see going on around us. I wanted to um, get this out while it was fresh for me, um, specifically as the title says, being a kept woman or Stockholm Syndrome. And with a lot of things that are going on right now for me, being in the realm of education, primarily with adults for over 15 years now, a lot of these terms that you hear with regards to mental illness, emotional instabilities, it's the root really of a lot of drug addiction, alcohol problems, things of that nature. So they're not that new to me. So if I'm throwing out terms, I'll make sure that I try to give a definition with it or drop something in the description box and you can research it on your own. Um, the title came to me as I just literally leave myself open to see and hear things in life so I can critique them and break those down, not only as a way for this blog to be cathartic for myself, but again, as it was designed to be of help for other people to get to the resources that they need and to just hear things that could be going on with them that may not be so great, um, to help pull them up out of where they are, at least put them on the path to going out to receiving newer, better, more critiqued, healthier information, and hopefully seeking a healthier way of life. With that being said, we are in the midst of the throes of this war on women. So, are we kept women or are we casualties of war? You know, Stockholm syndrome definitely is something that I think applies in a certain situation when we're talking about women who've been in however many months and years or whatever of abuse, and you find yourself in a position where now you become the protector of your abuser. So we'll speak briefly on the Stockholm syndrome part of it. I just kind of want to jump into the meat and the bones of what's kind of really hit us socially within the past year or so. We have Jeffrey Epstein, we have R. Kelly, um, we have Bill Cosby. And what recently sparked me to want to go ahead and get this out was the video that came across me researching YouTube, and it was on Holly Madison, and she was a former girlfriend of Hugh Hefner. So I want to point out some of the similarities in all of these celebrities. And again, it doesn't have to be the celebrity thing, but as in one um, clinical psychologist that I'm following, Dr. Ramini Durvsala, um, I believe she's based in California. Um, my research then has brought me to her research, where she's breaking down the difference between a narcissist, a psychopath, and a sociopath. So what we have to do, she's done a great job, is listening to her, and she's saying why the epidemic with where some of these celebrities is now coming to fruition and is unfolding. And personality-wise, they are some of the most charismatic, charming people on the planet. But there's something devious there. That is something not right. And I get that. What I am learning to try to get more so I can become a better educator. Myself working on my own PhD in counseling, Christian counseling specifically, is when I've got women that come across my whatever, my life, my desk, the classroom, speaking engagements, what have you. Um, and to look back at my own experiences as well, is to try to make it make sense. Try to make sense out of the nonsense. Because if it's nonsensical, like, wait, but we're still acting out. We have abusers and aggressors and predators, and it's not just specifically with men, but the dynamic between a men and women is what's front and center. So where has, as what I do know for sure, is that the things that I see with human beings now, we are not as evolved emotionally, financially, technically, socially, what have you. We are not a brand new creature. My generation of people, and I will be 46 years old in 2 months. We're not that highly evolved, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, psychologically, what have you. So a lot of these things with regards to sociopathy, psychopathy, narcissism, the things that then bring us to that point where we have emotional breakdowns and emotional traumas, and we're looking for an answer for that, or a band-aid to help just cover up and mask the hurt. This is nothing new. We're seeing it more now. I do believe it's getting to epidemic proportions of where the breakdown in the human spirit is off the chain. But where does any of this start? I'm going to make sure I put links in the description box that people will know where to go and get help. But the work that you do as a clinician is to try to help people focus on where it starts. I don't have the answer as far as where it starts. I wanted to generate this video so I can highlight what is already out there and what is present and what is available versus its origin. I will leave that up to medical doctors and for those who seek to get help. So back to the original point. One common thread that I'm realizing is happening with the Jeffrey Epstein's, Bill Cosby's, R. Kelly's, Hugh Hefner's of the world, allegedly, is that there is a need for power and control on their part. Jeffrey Epstein has been accused prior to his suicide of multi-decade abuse, of sexual abuse, manipulation, coercion, and to the point of human trafficking with women. Bill Cosby is not in the box of human trafficking, but he's in the box of sexual predation, as far as preying on women, abusing their trust to the point of drugging women, allegedly, or because it just can't always be about the sexual gratification. There's another need there for these people. It just shows up, and the result is a sexual need. In their head is a need, but when it comes out in an unwanted fashion to me, and you're the recipient of it as the victim, then it's a sexual violation. R. Kelly's of the world, women literally, allegedly being held and kept in homes, locked in rooms, not having permission to leave the premises or live their own lives. If people kind of dig a little bit further into his cases, nothing ever is on record right now as far as him forcibly kidnapping anyone. Nothing's there. But he's put himself in a position where he's made himself, his money, available to women to say, here, I'm open, I'm going to pluck you out of the crowd, and you should be ever so happy to be with me. So the women, to a certain extent, have made themselves available to him to prey upon. Allegedly with Hugh Hefner, and this is a story of Holly Madison. I will put that link. I believe she told her story to Oprah Winfrey has a series on her own channel, Where Are They Now? And so I believe this is a follow-up to something she's done before on the own channel. And she just basically, on this clip, speaks about one of the reasons why she broke up with Hugh Hefner. Though the breakup to me wasn't that much of a concern. And I just happened to be scrolling, just happened to stop and click because, oh, I just thought to myself, oh, I remember her. She was on the show. I believe it was Girls Next Door or something like that in the early 2000s that showcased the day-to-day lifestyle of these girlfriends of Hugh Hefner as they lived with him at the Playboy Mansion. And so her story in this clip basically, it was kind of glossed over. I don't know if she didn't want to get that far into it, deep into it, but she was saying that it was really just all for show and kind of glitz and glamour, and that the women, again, weren't allowed to leave to go see their families without certain permission from him, so they didn't have just a free will to come and go. However big the home is or the compound is, they had to be physically indoors, inside of the mansion by 9 p.m. on a nightly basis. So with all of these wild Playboy parties I've heard that are going on for years, and people there and hanging out to the wee hours of the morning, I've heard even that Bill Cosby spent up to 2 years living at the Playboy Mansion, that during the height of some of his early allegations, maybe during the 70s or 80s, that the wife expelled him from their home. So he wanted to keep that under wraps and lived at the Playboy Mansion for a number of years. Birds of a feather flock together, you know. Um, Going into the worst of the worst scenarios where women don't have the easiest way out. In stories you're hearing of women being kept by these boyfriends turned abusers, turned rapists, turned murderers. Um, the most egregious story of late, a few years ago, of Ariel Castro that kidnapped and physically held down 3 women at a home in Cleveland, Ohio. And in some of the testimony that he was able to give prior to his suicide, is that he himself had been molested or raped, I can't remember, as a child. And so his predatory habits in his mind, again, sociopathic, psychopathic, narcissism, something was there. That what he did is what the role of a relationship in his head with a man and a woman was supposed to be. So somewhere along the line, this person himself has gotten an example of what an abusive situation, rape, molestation, dominance, aggressiveness of some type looked like in the form of some other type of person that he's had been exposed to. And then the women at that point probably putting themselves in a position of being passive and with no value, no love, no self-esteem, no anything. And then you're just attached to this person. But it is definitely not a situation of love and caregiving. So, in essence, what I do know for sure, we have got to stop. 2019. Use this year to fortify yourself. Because what I do know for sure is fear and fortification cannot live in the same space. I grew up in a home where it was maybe an equal amount of where I saw women that were in relationships with men who were abusing them, abusing their trust, physically abusing them, emotionally abusing them. What I know now is another big factor, pulling them away from their own dreams and their own goals. My own mother herself was a college graduate bound woman when she became pregnant with my older brother. And boom, you have to drop out of college. You're going to be the housewife now, shotgun wedding. And she never completed her education. How many countless of women have dumbed themselves down with that Stepford wife syndrome, that in order for this man that we now teach our boys, and I've said it before, we have an entirely different conversation and how we're raising our boys with how we raise men in these traditional heterosexual households. I am an openly pansexual woman, and before those years of me coming to terms with what I thought that meant, I knew that me catering to a man, fixing his food, fixing his dinner, washing his clothes, ironing his clothes, cooking, cleaning the house, and just not even us as kids that were there. Catering to this man's everything. Bring me a glass of water, iron my shirt. Just the dominating disrespect in the tone of voice and how you were being spoken to and how you were being treated. And on top of that, the same man who's my so-called husband is going out and having affairs, having children outside of my marriage. He's working and making his money and doing what he feels is okay, but there's never any question of what I want and what I feel and what I need. And I knew from an early age that shit was not for me. Like, are you kidding me? I can care for you, I can love you, I can whatever, but ain't no ass kissing going on here. Not with this one. I just didn't resonate with that. But again, the other side of the coin is I saw women in my family who were hard driving women. They had their husbands, they had their families, they had their kids, but these women weren't taking no shit. Like, you stepping out on me? If they didn't have the power to stop that, then they had the power to say, whatever you do, this is what I'm going to do. Now, if you want to come in the house and act up and act a fool, then I'm going to act a fool. I ain't really advocating any of that type of nonsense with that get back, that tit for tat stuff, because back during that time, things were highly violent in my upbringing. Women were shooting their husbands. They were stabbing these motherfuckers. They were just not the ones that were not tolerating this shit. They just didn't tolerate it. These sisters fought back, and they were fighting for their lives, literally. Again, the flip side of that is the women were so docile, so passive, and living in so much fear that you were afraid to say anything, let alone do anything. And I knew from an early age of not really defining myself as not knowing what that was to put a label on it, but I knew I didn't want to be that. I knew that I was just like, no, that's not for me. Whatever that was, it wasn't for me. Getting out in the world as a younger woman, 18 and 19, by that time, I think I was about 19 when I got my first apartment. I couldn't get through cosmetology school fast enough. I left what would have been a career to train in criminal justice and probably follow through to become a lawyer, to become a cosmetologist, because I figured it was the quickest way I could get through a program and start making money and get out and be independent and be on my own, because the abuse that I was growing up in was not for me at all. I wanted no parts of that. Back during those early 90s, not knowing what having no parts of that meant, but I knew that that shit wasn't for me. I began to see young women that I was growing up with. During that time, women were then experimenting with their own selves. The teenage pregnancy thing was starting to happen a little close to home for me. I had a cousin who was pregnant at 16, a girlfriend up the block, pregnant with her first kid at 16. Another cousin lived out of state, was pregnant at 14, I believe, somewhere around like that. So I'm starting to see where I had relationships with these women, but then the common thread was we knew we wanted to be out in the world and doing our own thing and being whatever we thought being independent was. But the primary conversation with those women, different from the conversation that I was having, is my boyfriend's going to do this, and my husband needs this, and I need to get my boyfriend so we can do this and have this and buy this and this and that. And all I saw at the end of the day was not that these women had these really great people that were being good to them and loving them. It was the meal ticket. And so this is what we do. We tell women to not build themselves up, to not educate themselves, to not go after their own hopes and dreams, that their hopes and dreams are only rooted in what type of man they have. And then we teach these men that in order for you to beat a big man, you need a harem of women out here. And these women primarily is to be having your kids. And the thing about having kids is to keep you tethered to this other person. So men trap and women trap when it comes to the dynamic of people that are bringing kids to this world in a very fucked up, dysfunctional way. It's probably where the abuse starts, in the sector of emotions, and that is the lowest part of the brain, but it is the first as far as brain development and cognition and full capacity of the brain's plasticity. It starts on the emotional level, because before you can talk, before you can and express yourself, you're expressing emotions. You come into the world kicking, screaming, and that's the only thing you can get out at that point. So emotionally speaking, we go through life way too far in life. I mean, decades long in your life, and you're still operating from an emotional capacity to where you will not allow yourself to develop yourselves on those other upper tiers of brain plasticity to be able to fully use your brain to its best capacity. So we hang on to the one thing we've always been shown, which is the kicking, screaming, the this and that. So we do that as a response to whatever is triggering us. We teach our men to get out in life and have this godlike syndrome, this omnipotence presence. And we use the word God for one interchangeably with the pronoun he, which I would also like to see change, because for me, it's about me having a creator. I know that something created me in this image of their likeness for whatever reason. It's neither he or she to me. But since I am a human being and I'm not a zebra, and I was given birth from another woman and not a female zebra, then as this organism in this body, then you will recognize yourself as being a human being. And your creator created you as a human being. That's neither here nor there. So it's not so much as a tried and true religious thing for me, it's a humanity thing. And so in our humanity, we're teaching women to view men in these traditional heterosexual dynamic, dysfunctional as they may be, relationships, that the man is your savior. That you have to put yourself in a position of not having, not doing, not even feeling for self, unless this man, you're attached to what we think this man is supposed to be. He is the security. So we use those words interchangeably, savior and security, and a few other things that may start with the S that I don't want to bother to Google right now. The men, then we teach them their value is in what type of woman that they have, what the woman looks like, not what education she has, what her values are, what her morals are, what she brings to life, what she views in life, what she values in life. It's none of that. Primarily, it's what she looks like and how many babies she can dump out for you, you know. So when you have that type of dysfunction can only survive with other types of dysfunction, and that's birds of a feather flock together at its finest. So what we got to do is learn at some point that we've got to start having the same dialogue with our young boys as we do with our women. We're going to have to fight this dysfunction head on. So as in the case of the women that are dealt with the Hugh Hefners allegedly of the world, the Bill Cosby's allegedly of the world, the Jeffrey Epstein's allegedly of the world, the R. Kelly's allegedly of the world. If you were making your own money, if you were self-sufficient, if you were independent, that you really need to be around these men that you consider to be powerful and what you thought that power entailed, if you bothered to become your own power. Now, what happens is in an insecure mind and an emotionally dwarfed mind, again, could be the one thing that a sociopath, a psychopath, and a narcissist have in common is they themselves have no identity. So when you have an individual who's dealing with themselves with low self-esteem and have never stepped into the shoes of starting self-actualization, then their only identity is um, defined with what is around them and what they have access to. Do I only feel good about myself if I have this woman, and it's not enough to just have this woman, possess this woman, um, because I'm in constant fear that she realizes that I'm doing bad things and I really may be a bad guy, versus a human being who's showcasing bad behavior. You can't make a distinction between the self, when the self has never been identified, and the things that the self does. So I really do want this person with me so bad, because whatever viewpoint you've been given of what love is and what nurturing is, it's never probably been defined for you in a healthy or nurturing way. You're just rehashing in 2019 what you saw happen in 99 when you were coming up in that particular household, or 89, or however, whatever, we're going to put the timeline together. So I don't know how to be loving and nurturing to this person, but I know I've seen someone hit a woman, and I've seen someone abuse a woman, and I've seen someone force a woman into a pregnancy. Again, now where we're going into these situations with these new abortion laws, ban on abortion laws, and to keep women in these situations and be financially, emotionally dependent on what you think is this power, or whatever you think this man stands for. The abuser or the oppressor knows that without you, there's no activity there. They don't have nothing to do. They don't have anyone to hit. They don't have anyone to belittle. They don't have anyone to abuse. They're not hopefully on that line of being schizophrenic or anything else, where they're actually going through life hearing voices and talking to themselves. So mental illness takes a lot of facets and shapes and forms. So we got to talk more about emotional illnesses, which happens in the brain, and put that in the same paradigm as we're going to talk about other types of mental illnesses. Because people have got to get help. You as the abuser, or you as the one who was abused. Because now we can figure out what some of the root causes of why people abuse. Now let's look at the root causes of why people allow themselves to be abused. I'm going to step away for just 1 second, guys. Give me a second. Hey, okay, I'm sorry. I am cooking dinner and needed to turn something off on the stove. But what we got to do now is talk about where people who have been abused and allowed themselves to be abused, where does that start? It starts typically in the same place, in the home, in your environment, socially, somewhere where you saw this going on and it was an example. You put yourself on the road to whatever type of adulthood and independence that you wanted, and you attracted yourself to the same type of nuances versus rebelling against, and that was the label I was given as a kid. I rebelled, and as if that was a bad thing. My rebelling came from me knowing that this person that I saw, mother or not, this person that I saw allowing herself, you could get up and leave and go to work every day. You could get up and go visit your friends. You could get up and go to the grocery store. You can get up and do whatever. You were physically able to get up and leave. But when you came back to that situation, then yes, years later, this is what has me now researching Stockholm Syndrome and why abused people stay with abusers. Before I knew what Stockholm Syndrome was, I knew that I did not want to be a part of what that was. So when this person now is encouraging me to allow this other person who's abusing you, who just happens to be my father, you're allowing them now to abuse me. You now are losing a lot of ground with me as the mother, because the definition of the mother, as I've seen it or read it and looked at other people whose parents weren't abusing them, their mothers protected them. Their mothers didn't allow them to be burned with irons, hit with baseball bats, slapped across the face, knocked across the room, hair pulled, just whatever other type of abuse you can think of that could be going on in a house with two alcoholic parents. One in the position of being the aggressor and the dominant one, and the other being in position of the passive submissive one. Also researching now what it means to be a masochist and a sadist. So emotionally speaking, um, people are masochists or sadists. So in the realm that people are out engaging in these things in the BDSM communities of the world, these people know that they have a need to dominate, and they know they have a need to be dominated. And they go out and they share that with their partners or people in that world, and they play along permissively. Um, but in a sense, we're talking about this person hit me and blacked my eye, and you enable it and you tolerate it because then this person goes out and buys you a dress the next day. I never really saw any actual apologies. I never really saw any love. I've seen countless and countless of pictures over the years where I'm seeing this person with a broken finger on a hand, broken and never bothered to get it mended. So I finally had to ask the question a few years ago, what happened to your hand? And I was told verbatim from the person's mouth that their husband broke their hand during a fight. And my next question is, why didn't you bother to get it fixed? He wouldn't let me get it fixed. So the person who's capable of breaking your bones because they had an okay job, because they were paying for a house, because they were paying for a car, you could get up and go to the grocery store and go see your girlfriends, but you couldn't get up and literally drive 3 blocks to the hospital that we live near in our community to get help for your own self. So the abusers and those that are abused share that commonality. There is no self-identification. There's no self-value. There's no self-worth. There's no self-love. Not victim blaming, but accountability is going to have to come into play somewhere, sooner or later. If not, you're going to have an aunt, a mother, a grandmother who's going to continue to operate in this world, and another impressionable young girl or young boy is going to continue to see them behave this way. And if they don't ever put themselves on the path to finding a different type of example to surround themselves with and gravitate to, it's another generation of abusers and those that are abused that are waiting to unfold. Again, I just see it now at epidemic levels. At the end of the day, I do know that somewhere along the lines, your heart, your spirit, as repressed as it has been, it wants to be rid of that. You don't want to live like that. You being punched in the face does not feel good. You having your bones broken does not feel good. You having someone snatch and pull your hair out of your scalp does not feel good. I have been in a situation twice in my life where I had to step back and reevaluate, like, bitch, what are you doing? It took me being in these 2 relationships, 2 different men, 2 different decades of my life, one in my 20s, one in my 30s, to snap me out of it and realize, with the help of someone else, along my own path, that I was reliving the very same thing that I said I never wanted for myself. But it took it getting to the physical aspect of abuse. And so the physical aspect, I put my foot down on. Like, no, you're never putting your hands on me. So when I'm in a relationship with these people, and it literally happened within 2.5 to 3 years in both instances, at that 3 year mark, whatever happened, people think your guards are down, people think this and that. I've been with this person long enough, I'm just going to try them. And it tried to get physical. That was the light switch for me. I'm out of here, I'm gone. I got to fight back, I got to retaliate, I got to do whatever the fuck it is I'm going to do, but you ain't going to put your hands on me. These earrings coming off, fuck these nails, fuck the makeup, we gonna be two fight motherfuckers in here. And advice sticks around in the back of my head from one of those ass kicking aunts that I had in my young years. That if you got to defend yourself, you better have something ready at your availability, and don't ever let that dude know that you got it, because he will take it and try to use it against you. And so as they tried to get physical with me, I had to come over the top of my physicality with them. So you're going to hit me, I'm going to hit you back, but I got a hammer, a knife, a tire iron, a this or that, something else in my hand when I got to hit you back. Now, what you're going to know after this instance is that when I say don't put your hands on me or don't fuck with me, that I mean what I say, because there's consequences behind that. Consequences of me not being in fear of enacting those consequences. So what I had to also realize is that abuse is not a one-shot thing. It is not an overnight thing. It is a culmination of things. And so the situations had already been toxic, unhealthy. Emotionally, they were damaging. Emotionally, they were draining. But at this point, that's all that the experience that I had at so many years of that growing up, that part of abuse wasn't abusive to me. But I had to now take a step back and put myself in a situation that, yes, this is where it starts. So where is it that you thought that this type of behavior was acceptable, it was okay, that you got into it with not one person, but two? So I had to take a long pause in my own life and step back and reevaluate everything at that point that I thought that I knew about myself, and begin to put myself with the push and the shove and the nudge with my creator. At that point, last time that it happened, I lost a job, I lost a so-called relationship, I lost a business that I was starting, I lost my car, lost my apartment, all of this stuff within about 6 months. Just spiraling out of control. And I'm like, well, like, why? Questioning why is all of this stuff happening to me? Um, and it's supposed to happen. If you're chosen to be a vessel, and you're chosen to be a warrior, you're chosen to be a worker in this life, to share, and for those experiences in life to come through you, you're supposed to go through it. I'm a woman also with lupus. I can't tell anyone else about my experience with lupus and what they're going through with lupus and being sympathetic about having lupus when you ain't never had lupus. I get enough of that nonsense when I even have to go and see my doctors. And they scientifically will study it and academically will study it, but you don't have lupus. What you really are saying to me about having lupus is only going to go so far, because at this point I'm educating you because I'm the one with lupus. Got it? Granted, that's what that means. So you can't do that much educating to someone being in an abusive relationship if you've never been abused yourself. You can't, and very rarely do I see these anything anywhere. I actually saw something on Yellen Van Zandt, and it was a follow-up story with a man and a woman that was probably 2 or 3 years old, where the woman was in an abusive relationship with her boyfriend, and this was a follow-up on their story. And they were still together. They began to work things out. Since the airing of the show, the guy had not been physically abusive to the woman again, and they had both entered counseling. The guy, I thought, was a little bit more profound in his story because he had entered a program for other abusers. We have countless of programs out here about abused women and women that need help with leaving their abusers and things of that nature. But very rarely have I ever heard of the abuser, especially the man, and a black man, going after his own counseling and getting his own help. So again, once we remove these so-called versions of what we're implanting and ingraining and indoctrinating our young people with, that as a man, you're supposed to do this and do this and do this, and as a woman, you're supposed to be here. So a man, you're supposed to be here, and a woman, you're supposed to be here. You have all the value, you have all the power as a man, and as a woman, you have nothing. You don't have anything unless you have that man. Like, when we start loving ourselves enough to have the same dialogue and the same conversation with our young men as we have with our young women, we can try to do what we can, at least generations going forward, try to eliminate this problem. Commonalities that are again going on with women that are being abused: no self-esteem, no sense of value or worth. It's past just this kept syndrome of, I just want a man to take care of me and just put a roof over my head. I heard a 62-year-old woman say that to me about 6 months ago, and I'm looking at you like, sis, do you know what is it that, first of all, is supposed to be so special about you that someone else is just supposed to take care of you? Whatever it is you're going through life, you're supposed to go through it, and you're supposed to be out here going through it. Now, you're at this stage in your life and you're still saying a man is supposed to take care of you? Well, when a man is doing all of that for you and you have no rights, no privilege to your own life, when that situation then becomes abusive, it becomes toxic, it becomes unhealthy, do you mean to tell me that everything you should be loving about yourself takes a complete backseat and has no other type value in your life as long as this person pays a bill for you? Another woman in her 50s was speaking the same thing roughly a year or so ago when I met her. But she was adamant about her independence. Her issue was, this guy that I've been in love with him and he's living with another woman. I don't know why he chose her over me. And it's like every time me and this woman met up with each other to go out, hang out, have a drink or whatever, she would literally, before the end of the night, without bawling, in a ball, curled up, dripping, eyes swell, nose running, full on, just breakdown every time. And I'm like, sis, you are how old now? And you don't get that this person that's not loving you ain't supposed to love you. You don't know what's going on with him and this other woman's situation, but here you are comparing yourself to what he's doing with this other woman. And you're saying that for the most part he's an asshole, but you still want that. Why do you want someone that don't want you? Sis, like, I don't, that it, I don't register it. Me, I don't at all. At all. And I try, really, you guys know that I try to do, be non-judgmental about it. A lot of people don't have that sense of, fuck this shit, get up off your ass type mentality. I have that. So when I get bulldog like that, people think that I'm blaming them or I'm judging them, and I'm not. I do know at certain times I have to fall back and I have to do the woo 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 boo boo boo, that type thing. But that don't mean I'm going to enable you to be in the same situation you're in. So when I tell you that as a friend, I can't enable people. I can't uh, coach you in your abuse. I just can't do that. So when you and I gonna hang out and do the girlfriend thing again, and I try to put enough distance there, but you showing up again a month later and you boo-hooing and crying, or is a abusive situation and you don't want to leave, sis, here's a phone number, here's this and that. You need help. I'm not the one for you, because what I do know is, in order for that to continue to go on, now you're going to pull me into your dysfunction. And now here I am enabling you being abused and oppressed. I can't do it. Education has got to come up front somewhere and get out there and get it. This is the point of this platform. And I want people to know that there is help out there for them. But on a personal level, I have to walk away in order to save me. I put distance between my own personal relationships with people that are blood related to me, because I cannot do that with you. Period. There's another way to live out here. And if you don't want to do it, it's on you. With that being said, I want to go ahead and jump into a couple things right now. Again, with the doctor I was saying earlier that I've been following online. She has a great page on Facebook. And she wrote a book, Should I Stay or Should I Go? Surviving a Relationship with a Narcissist. So again, part of one of the last podcasts that I caught for her is about, are abusers narcissists, sociopaths, or psychopaths? So just really quickly, let me give a quick definition on a breakdown. I'll put the page to where the article is in the actual YouTube blog in the description box and you'll have it. A narcissist lacks empathy, is grandiose, entitled, constantly seeks validation, and is arrogant. I've come across that several times with some of the men that are in my family. I myself, as in one of my early videos here on Confessions of Man and Woman, talked about being a child of being molested by an older brother. I brought it to his attention in more than one time, in more than one shape, fashion, and I still get the nothingness. Nothing registers. Not that he doesn't hear me. Uh, so it's dealing with something in his mental illness. He's able to put what I'm saying to him. I'm past putting out an anger, past being pissed off about it, past whatever. Having a sit down conversation and trying to get something from him if that's not there, I know will never happen. Okay, so the apology is never going to happen. The acknowledgement is never going to happen. But I do believe now that psychologically he puts himself into a place in his mind to where what I'm saying to him, as long as he's able to put it in a box in his mind that what I just said is not what I said, he doesn't ever have to address it. But he can be the most charming, arrogant type person that I know. I have another cousin that walks around in complete emotional ignorance, social ignorance, and I say it all the time. But that arrogance allows them to keep pumping every day. Well, I got a good job and I'm going to buy this and I'm going to offer that, and it's never anything that is ever acknowledged when it comes to the type of disrespect that they put out. But I can stop them and their behavior in their tracks when I tell them that they're behaving just like their dad or just like their uncle or like my grandfather. And this person was abusive and that's abusive. So even though it wasn't physical in how they're acting or behaving, for them to understand that is a way, the only way that I can try to put somewhat of a stop to it, to get it to click in their head, because part of them doesn't want to be that, even though this is what they're displaying every day and exemplifying. Okay, so that's your definition of a narcissist. A narcissist lacks empathy. That's anything you're saying or doing or how another person feels, specifically in what you're saying or doing to them. You don't have any empathy. You're grandiose, you're entitled, constantly seeks validation, and is arrogant. When they do a bad thing, they feel a fair amount of guilt and shame. That does not stop them from doing the same bad things again. So a part of their behavior is impulsive and compulsive by nature. All right, the definition of a psychopath. A psychopath has no guilt, no shame, and no remorse. They do bad things and they don't care or they don't feel bad about it. Um, they're great serial killers or work great as hired assassins, according to Dr. Durvsala. She goes further to talk about under medical scans, PET scans, PET scans of the brains of psychopaths show that the section that serves empathy literally does not light up for them. When they think of people in pain, they are unable to process it and make decisions related to that. So you literally are not a receiving being, living, breathing entity to them. So what they're doing to you as far as having no empathy, but they also have no remorse about it, is what makes a psychopath different from a narcissist. And finally, a sociopath. A sociopath shares all the same traits as a psychopath, but for the most part, the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath, or sociopathy and psychopathy, is that a sociopath is born with that part of their brain that's not functioning, and a sociopath is made. So the sociopath is born, could be born in under relatively healthy brain functioning, but you're in an environment now where this type of behavior is normalized, and this is how you learn to behave. Um, a sociopath is made, and it's something bad that has happened to this person to make them this way. So for that being said, not that you're going to fall to the charismatic spell of these abusers and them wanting to be apologetic and make excuses for their behavior. The behavior is not changing and it's not improving. To avoid this, you avoid them. Again, this person doesn't have anybody else to play with because you're not on the playground. You don't go near the playground. You don't get in the sandbox. You don't go where they are. You've got to love yourself, value yourself, make yourself worthy enough, esteem yourself, and fortify yourself enough to stay away from that when upon first instance that these behaviors and traits show up. And I'm out of there. So for me, I have almost to the point where it's become habitual, and I try to not, again, come across as being judgmental. But when you show me the negative disrespect, just unprovoked ugliness in your spirit, in your tone, in your words, in your behavior, one time, and this is conversations that I have going to any situation with anybody socializing in my life. If you show it to me the one time, you're done. Because I'm done. I don't have to do nothing about changing you. I'm going to do everything that I can do to change me. And I'm out of here. I will never leave myself financially dependent on another person, emotionally dependent. Car you ain't driving, I don't care. I would never live in a city where I can't get to a damn bus and have enough money for a bus stop. If that ain't feasible, I'm never going to live somewhere where I can't walk somewhere to get to where I need to go. Call an Uber. Do what the hell you need to do. You're talking about relying upon a person who is literally in their head, in their sociopathy, psychopathy, in their illness, in their breakdown. Their main focus in life now becomes to destroy you. It cannot happen if you don't allow yourself to be in a situation with this person. So now you have to discuss with yourself and get the help you need why the abuse happens. So we got to fortify our young girls, young men, young boys, whomever are most vulnerable to this type of predation. That you've got to build yourself up. You've got to, because this type of behavior doesn't happen at one time and you just wake up one day and find yourself trapped in a home that you can't leave with the R. Kellys or the Hugh Hefners, allegedly, of the world. That you find yourself on a couch drinking a glass of wine that I didn't buy, that I didn't open a bottle to, that I'm going to allow this person to put something in it and serve it to me under the guise of being friendly. And now I'm too drunk, I'm too doped up that I can't get in the cab, I can't walk, I can't leave, and I have no control over my bodily functions. That you don't find yourself so allured by the money and trips and townhouses and islands and all of this that these other women with the Jeffrey Epsteins allegedly fell prey to. And in order to keep that flowing, now you're not only going to have to submit to the whims of this person, now you have to be pimped out to his buddies and his friends. We have got to fortify ourselves as a human race to not have the need to want to do that to other human beings and not have the need to want to receive that from other human beings. So it's really and truly a huge question mark on why our souls and our spirits are so empty. And I'm still going to put the we in there because I know I'm working on my own. But I do know that there's certain shit in life I just ain't tolerating. I have an entire family of people that I can pick up by names if I chose to. You will not speak words to me, period, not because you are being abused, because you don't want to do anything about your abuse. And that's not because you're being left in this situation with the abuser. When you have opportunity to get up and go and leave and you choose not to, on a personal level, I can't spend the years out of my life dragging nobody where they don't want to go. So I will tackle it on a professional level. And if you don't want to get that help professionally, then good luck to you with where you are. So I do believe in meeting people where they are and leaving you where they are, if need be. There's nothing ever in this world, and if you take nothing else from this video, please take this. Nothing else in this world. There's no arrogance behind what I'm about to say. No nothing, because it's aimed at no one other than self, other than me. There will never be another person, place, dollar bill, money, house, car, anything that will ever mean more or have more value to me other than me. And if we spend more time, people, valuing ourselves, loving ourselves, developing our own self-worth, you really do have to ask yourself the question, what do I need these outside influences for? What do I really need this other person for? So now you can come to terms with what your real needs are. I want companionship, yeah. I want us to go on vacations together, yeah. Maybe you do want to live in a house and have a need for that, but now, yeah, we got two incomes coming in and we can afford this and we can buy this and this, that, and other. But if you ever find yourself without this other outside influence, that's what you are for. You are there for self-fulfillment of everything. Your entire 8, 9, 10, 12, 32-ounce glass jar of self, of where you put your emotions in it, is your job to fill that up. You. No one else, because if no one else is there, are you crumbling, falling apart, and again, spending your time, putting all your effort into chasing down this abuser, because they're then going to falsely make you think that they're your protector when they're really your captor. Accountability has got to happen somewhere. Never allow yourself to be in a position where you will never be 100% you and 100% you and 100% healthy. Never do that. Videos I'll be putting out, it's not always going to be about the bad, negative, hurtful things that's going on, but unfortunately, this thing that we call the war on women is a real thing. And I want women to empower themselves with as much weaponry that's at your disposal. Build your arsenal up. But the insecure, emotionally dwarfed mind will hear a woman saying that I'm independent, I love me, I'm going to do for me. They hear that it's saying that you don't need them. So when that comes across in your dialogue with this person, that should be indication enough that this person is not themselves emotionally fortified enough to hang out in the same sandbox as you. Go find you some new friends. Go find you a new person to fuck and lay down with and roll up in the covers with and buy your house with and drive your cars with and whatever else you need this person for. That ain't it. Life is too fucking short. And one thing I do know about having lupus, and I still got people that want to try to creep across my doorstep with their same old bullshit. How you talk, how you act, how you speak. Ain't nothing flipped, fraudulent, disrespectful, nothing coming out your mouth. You don't have my permission, nor do you have an invitation to step into my life with your shit. Because I do know that my life has a question mark on it. And I can check out this motherfucker at any minute. So what you're not going to do is come across my life with your bullshit and try to throw your bullshit on my front porch. And you think I'm going to clean it up for you. That's not happening. Perfection don't exist. But I work on being the best me every day. So if I'm putting the best me out, and the best you got to put out as a bunch of negative, toxic, oppressive, abusive bullshit on whatever level, emotionally, financially, physically, this, that, and other, get thee behind me, Satan, as far, far away as you can. And you don't want to do that because it's your job to be hunting me down and then prey upon me because you think my kindness is a weakness. My job is to get the fuck away from you as fast and far as I can. If that ain't happening, then you still there, you're trying to block, you're trying to this, that, and other. Now, if we got to go to war, we gonna go on war. But the war on women ain't gonna end the way you think it's gonna end. This will be a war, because I have no doubt I'm a soldier. And I will fight to the death for self-preservation. Because I love my damn self too fucking much to let anybody else try to destroy it. Manipulate it all you want, chip away at what you think all you want, you will not win. That's real talk. So when it comes to being a kept woman, these Stepford wives type syndrome, your entire life and being docile and yes, just that and the other two, like how does that even make sense now to be a person with no substance at all? How does that even make sense? I really and truly wish that I could find women I'll be on the hunt for that want to share their stories and tell their stories, but I do want to hear from women that may have lived in that time where this housewife thing was what it was back then. You just were the woman of the house and you had babies and took care of the kids and took care of the house. How many of those marriages ended in divorce or ended badly or tragically with the man hurt or the woman hurt? Or someone being cheated on or disrespected and all this other kind of other ugliness that it ends up in. Like, I really want to have a conversation with people so they can at least, if they've grown out of it, have the conversation with their self as they are now with who they were back then going through that stuff. And it's going to take a strong person to have that conversation with themselves and then be able to share it with the world. But we need to hear it because we need to understand you at that point, why you were brought into this situation thinking that this is what it was for you and this is the only example of what a life was for you before you stepped into your own independence. I would love to have the conversation with an abuser. I really would. If they're willing to speak on camera um, and speak about what it is was going through their head at the time that they were abusing whomever. Um, but then again, you're talking about trying to have a conversation with a sociopath or a psychopath, and they're on the road to recovery and redemption. For those that are, good luck to you. For those that aren't yet, I mean, reality speaking, it's just certain evil in this world that hasn't been born yet. So I do believe in wholeheartedly. A bad person is only as bad as their bad behavior. So if you don't want to be bad, try doing something good a little bit every day and see how much better you feel about yourself. Not because of what you're going to get from other people. It's about what you're going to give yourself. That's what loving yourself is. It's the greatest gift anyone could ever give themselves. Once you become emotionally stable and mature enough to be able to do that and be on that road to self-redemption to do that. With that being said, guys, the question will still remain and it will linger for us for a while. Kept women, or is this a war on women? Kept women or Stockholm Syndrome? So when you become so far removed away from the example of anything else, you now become your biggest protector of your abuser. Now, yes, we're talking about something else mentally, emotionally unstable that's going on in the mind of the abused. We know it's there for the abuser, but now we got to talk about what's going on in the minds and hearts and the emotional states of the abused. Because it's not just happening in close, intimate partner relationships. That type of abuse can happen across the board, at work, with neighbors, with whatever. So as human beings, we've got to start to research our own humanity and realize that you don't have to do evil, be evil, encompass evil, enable evil, put up with evil in order to get by in this life. Like being able to just breathe easy and be around people who maybe share a like mind state. And if they don't, you've got to be diligent enough, secure enough within yourself to walk that walk for yourself without needing any outside anyone filling up your cup from someone else. So I'll put links in the description box for those of us who know people who are being abused or those who are abusers. Point them to this video, please. The description in the box will be there. I'll try to make sure that I have links for the article with Dr. Durvsala there. And I want to leave you guys with a poem as I was researching things under Kept Woman. And I came across a poem that I thought was a great way to cap off this video. So if you're going to be a kept woman in whatever sense that you're kept, listen to this. I don't have the author, but I will put the description of where I found the poem. Or it's more of a just kind of an open diary, really. Okay? Says here, Kept Woman, that is the title. I am a kept woman. You see, there were times when I thought I would lose my mind, but God kept me sane. There were times when I thought I couldn't go on no longer, but God kept me moving. At times, I wanted to lash out at those whom I felt had done me wrong, but God kept my mouth shut. Sometimes I think the money just isn't enough, but God helped me to keep the lights on, the water on, the rent paid, etc. When I thought I would fall, God kept me up. When I was weak, God kept me strong. I could go on, but I'm sure you hear me. I am blessed to be kept. Are you? Or do you know a kept woman? If so, pass this on to her and let her know she is kept. I'm kept by the love and grace of God. Again, with that being said, whomever you pray to, bow down to your Creator, God, Jesus, Jehovah, Elohim, Allah, Jah, whomever. Know that every day you breathe air, you open your eyes, you rise up, you're in the world functioning. You are kept. You are divine. You are beautiful. You are immaculate. You are magnificent. You are powerful. You are enough, my sister. You really are enough as you are. Your situation may not be most ideal, but you are enough. You are stronger to do something about it. You are strong enough to put one foot in front of the other with no money, no clothes, no car, no this, no direction, no real understanding. But make no mistake that you are kept. There's nothing out in this world right now that is not already there waiting for you. Because what you aren't is someone who deserves mistreatment, abuse, disrespect, no loyalty, pain. You don't deserve any of that negative stuff. It's there and it's in people only because we don't know how to do better. But your biggest lesson in life is you have to save yourself. Love yourself enough to save yourself from drowning. Love yourself enough to not die a little bit every day in these situations, let alone a physical death. Love yourself enough to leave. Peace and blessings to all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Confessions of Being a Woman. I hope by the uploading of this video, my Facebook page will be completed. Confessions of Being a Woman. Please check that out. If it's not going to be a page, it'll just be a full-on new group that I'll be starting. And at either rate, leave me your questions, your comments. My email will be in the description box. Comments are open. Positivity and love, I ask that you send this way because there are other women who are going to be reading this, listening to it, and hopefully can find the help that they deserve. There will be links to domestic violence shelters, hotline numbers in the description box. So again, I wanted this to be educational, informative. A little bit of my own personal ranting is in there, but again, that helps at times when you're purging. With that being said, I'm going to sign off. My sisters, you are powerful. You're independent. You're strong. You're wise. You're beautiful. You are everything that you need. Step into that power and watch life open up. It has no bounds. Thank you so much for joining me in Confessions of Being a Woman. I'll be signing off. Take care. Bye.